Bernie Moreno is the Republican nominee for the Senate seat in Ohio, currently held by Sherrod Brown, 50 years, a government employee in the Ohio legislature, the Congress, the Senate. We can't get rid of Sherrod. It's up to this man, Bernie Moreno, to dig him out of his trench in D.C. Bernie Moreno, good morning. Did you watch last night?
Yeah, it's sad, Hugh, honestly. I look at this as not from a political lens. We have a commander in chief that's clearly incapable of fulfilling his duties. This is the hardest job on earth. You're the leader of the free world. You carry the nuclear codes right next to you. He's clearly unable to do that. And what I'm absolutely disgusted by is that we have a Democrat machine led by people like Sherrod Brown who've covered this up. They've kept this from the American people. They knew he was in decline and did nothing about it.
Has Sherrod Brown yet said whether he's for him or against him? Because he's been ducking, he's been hiding.
Well, he went from riding with Biden to hiding from Biden. So
Ah!
he's declared Ohio a no-fly zone for Air Force One. He has a bunker in case Joe Biden's anywhere within a 50-mile vicinity of him. He's a coward, Hugh. The reality is, this is a guy who's voted with him almost 100% of the time and won't come out and say that he supports him because he clearly knows that it's a political calculation. But again, like I said, more importantly, he's covered up the fact that Joe Biden's incapable of fulfilling his duties.
Yeah, Bernie Moreno, I was hoping, probably without reason to hope, that someone in the Craven press corps would ask the president last night at the debate. You said no one had died on your watch. You know, one of the 13 dead at Abbey Gate is from Cleveland. You know, the two SEALs who died in the Arabian Sea, the three soldiers who died in Jordan. No one asked him. Does it come up on the trail when you run into veterans that they are very upset over this with the president's just indifference to the veterans who've paid the ultimate sacrifice in America?
Yeah, absolutely. But we don't have a fair press corps. I went to Max Zoviak's funeral in Berlin Heights. Great kid. Should never have died, should never have happened. What we saw in Afghanistan was an absolute abomination. It's one of the factors that led Putin to invade Ukraine because he saw what we saw on the debate stage, a feckless leader, somebody who's not going to project American strength, that's incapable of actually making the tough decisions that are required. And that's why we have instability all over the world. This is a very dangerous time. And again, this is not a political calculation. This is about we should require the commander in chief to have the mental acumen to actually complete the job. And that's not what we have right now.
Let me play for you, Bernie Moreno, a clip, a compilation of last night. The president's verbal tick when he loses his train of thought is to use the word anyways. Here is our montage, cut 26.
Look, folks, this is, well, anyway, in the next debate, I'm not going to be traveling into 15 time zones a week before. Anyway, I'm catching hell from my wife for that. Anyway, it wasn't about just, anyway, read what his objective is. And anyway, but then again, they're better than a lot of other people here too. But anyway.
So, Bernie Moreno, my producer, Dwayne Patterson, who does his own podcast, Dwayne World, he spends a lot of time overnight cutting these things up. I don't know if you'll hear the anyways montage anywhere else. When you have been in private sector and you're a very successful businessman, if someone is failing mentally and you have a tell like that, what do you do?
Well, you don't put somebody in a situation to be where they are in clear mental decline, and you put them in such a great position of responsibility. If you remember the old record players of the 1970s and 80s, maybe even some had in the 90s, and you had a scratch on your album, it just jumped. Unfortunately, we'll all get there where our mind does the same thing. Clearly, in his case, that's what happens. That's why he fills in the gaps with the anyways. Again, I've seen this. Both of my parents passed away from dementia and Alzheimer's. It was horrifying to watch. My dad was a brilliant man, and to see him decay like that was absolutely heartbreaking. But he resigned as a doctor 15 to 20 years before he passed away. He did not die while operating on a cancer patient. Joe Biden's got the nuclear codes. We should not have somebody in that position. And this is what's wrong with Washington, D.C., Hugh. We have people that are so desperate for political power that they're willing to die in office to keep it. It's wrong. We have to, as Americans, say enough of these forever politicians. Let's go back to our founders' vision. You did something in the private sector, you served, and then you came home. It's time for Joe Biden to go home. It's time for him to pass on the mantle. The Democrats just don't believe in that. He's a useful idiot to them because under his watch, they've passed the most extreme liberal agenda in American history. That's why they want to keep him.
Do you know what did not come up last night, Bernie Moreno? And I'll be calling you Senator Moreno or Senator-elect in November. But migration did not come up. I always talk to you about it because you're a legal migrant to the United States. Why won't the press bring up the at minimum 10 million people who have entered the country without invitation in the last 3.5 years?
Well, because you can't defend it, right? There's even if you're the sharpest mind in America, at the prime of your life, you can't possibly defend putting this country in such grave danger by allowing 10 to plus million people. We have no idea who they are. They're not vetted in any reasonable way. We have lots of criminals that have come here from Venezuela. They're killing Americans. They're overwhelming. Cities like Springfield, Ohio, has got 15,000 Haitians there that have been shipped there by the U.S. government. This is a town of just over 50,000 people. They have to find 5,000
Springfield, Ohio
homes to
has
build.
15,000 Haitians?
15,000 in a town of 50,000, Hugh. They're trying to build 5,000 homes in Springfield. Just to put that in perspective, in Columbus, which is the largest city in Ohio, we build an average of 3,500 homes a year. So this has led to incredibly high housing costs, incredible problems all over Springfield. You're seeing this all over America. It's a total and complete disgrace. The media just won't cover it, Hugh, because if they did, President Trump would win in this race by 80-20.
I am so people don't know anything about Springfield, Ohio. It's like It's like Warren. It's kind of like a small town, Ohio. I cannot imagine what happens to the school district when you put 15,000 French-speaking, right? Haitians are French-speaking immigrants into a small town, Ohio. I just can't imagine it, Bernie Moreno.
Well, it's not just for French. There's several other languages. It's overwhelming the schools. It's also overwhelming the hospitals because unlike you and me and your listeners, these illegal migrants don't have a copay. They don't have a deductible. They go right into the emergency room. They get full treatment for whatever medical condition they need. It's completely overwhelming. The health and human services of the county. It is absolutely a disgrace. And again, you never see it in the news because the media is complicit. They've been complicit in the cover-up of Joe Biden's mental decline. They've been complicit in the invasion of our southern border. And yet, all they want to do is focus on President Trump and try to demonize him, when in reality, if you look at the Republican National Committee platform, it's 20 items that are completely common sense.
Bernie, let's conclude by talking about the campaign itself. I want people to go to BernieMoreno.com if they're listening to me in Toledo or Columbus or Youngstown, Warren, or down in Cincinnati. I want them to sign up for you and work for you. But how is the funding? And I know you must be getting barraged by negative ads.
Yeah, Sherrod Brown is already reserved, I think, $48 million on TV. All of it attacking me, basically saying that I was a bad guy in business, etc. He has nothing to run on because his record is abysmal. So the only thing he can do is the politics of personal destruction. For me, it's simple. Look at Sherrod Brown's voting record, almost 100% of the time with Joe Biden. Once we get our message out, Hugh, once we get our name ID up into the 90s, I think we're going to win this race pretty resoundingly. Certainly, President Trump is going to win Ohio by 12 to 15, maybe even 20 points. So there's Sherrod Brown. This is his last election. And again, these guys, time to go home. You've never had a job in the private sector. By the way, Hugh, he refuses to debate me. I would love to have you come out to Ohio, see if you can talk that coward into getting on a stage with me, and let's have a debate on the issues. Let's not make it about personal attacks. Let's go out there and
Sherrod Brown is afraid of anyone who will ask him about. He's afraid I'll ask him. You've never had a job that wasn't a government job. How can you talk to him? He's afraid of school choice. He's afraid of everything. I want to close very quickly, Bernie. There is a significant Jewish American vote in Ohio. Israel, the captives did not come up last night, our hostages. Does Sherrod Brown pretend to be a friend of Israel? Because he has not been a friend of Israel in the last 9 months.
No, absolutely. He is absolutely terrible on Israel. I was just there, came back earlier this week. I was there for 5 days. Heartbreaking. This is a country that is hurting. America needs to have Israel's back unequivocally. We need to give them unconditional support, allow them to finish the job. They have to wipe out Hamas and be prepared to defend themselves, even go on the offense if they need to with Hezbollah.